Hey everyone, I'm Neppallv, and welcome to the Neppallv Show. Yes, I renamed this show because we're not just talking about politics anymore. Yes, politics is still a major element of this channel, and of the Neppallv Show, but it's not the only thing. Today, I want to talk about why I don't like Assassin's Creed anymore. In order to do so, let me take you through the timeline of games and how my enjoyment went from the absolute all the way down to complete apathy. Let's start from the top. The first game, released in 2007, was Assassin's Creed 1. I had this for the PS3. I played this when I was in middle school, and the controls felt really good. And the time it was set in, was really intriguing. It was set during the Third Crusade, and it was actually based more on the historical assassins and their conflict with the Templars. The events of the first game actually did happen in history. There was a group called the Assassins and the Knights Templar Order, and this game was more closer to that aspect of history than fiction. Now, it was still a work of fiction, but as far as historical context goes, it was very close to that. Then we got Assassin's Creed 2. Assassin's Creed 2 was set during the Renaissance era, so a major time jump between the Crusades and the Renaissance. In this game, you play as Ezio Auditore da Firenze. The story is very captivating. The gameplay has improved to a more open world, and you actually start out as a normal civilian who's been roped into the world of the Assassins and Templars after witnessing his family getting killed. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything, so I'm going to avoid the finer details, but take my word for it, this is the highlight of the series. Assassin's Creed 2 was so popular, it even got 2 sequels based on Ezio Auditore, and both those sequels are an absolute masterpiece, in my personal opinion. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, which is one of the sequels from Assassin's Creed 2, takes place directly after the end of the second game. It takes place in Rome, Italy, and before the events of between the events of the first game and the second game, the assassins were on decline, and you as Ezio are tasked with re-establishing the assassin order, so you get to do all sorts of things with your quote-unquote recruits, sending them on missions, etc., and they, after completing those missions, gain experience and eventually in their own right become masters. And you being on that journey with them is the highlight of Brotherhood. Now let us get to the final chapter in Ezio's trilogy, Revelations. The recruiting assassins makes a return here, and the only difference is it takes place in a new city called Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul. So, what I like about, and it also introduces a tower defense mechanic too. And you also get to play as Altaïr again. That was the main draw for it. But it's really more flashback missions. I'm not going to get into the details of that because that will lead to spoilers. However, in my personal opinion, it did satisfy Ezio's story. And I remember when I was playing this, I had anxiety. Oh my god, like, what are they going to do now? Ezio's the best character in the series. Like, are they gonna... It can't be the end. Now, did I have a right to feel that way? You're about to find out. Much to my surprise, Assassin's Creed 3 was good. It was longer than Assassin's Creed 2. Most of it was because I was hunting, and the hunting minigame was really fun. The story was actually pretty good, although I found the switch between Haytham and Connor to be a bit disorienting. Connor is not as charismatic as Ezio, and that's not really his fault. The reason it's not really that much of his fault is because Ezio was the best character in the series, and I felt very biased towards that, and also it's a lot to live up to. But Assassin's Creed 3 was a great game. But coming off the Ezio trilogy, it took me a while to accept. I'm going to combine Black Flag and Rogue into one mini segment. Black Flag, you play as Connor's grandfather and Edward Kenway. A lot of people... So I'm kind of torn between Ezio and Edward. I think they're both great characters in the entire Assassin's Creed saga. It didn't really feel like an Assassin's Creed game until later on in the game, where you actually learn about the Order. You sort of had that, like, Han Solo experience. It's the best way I could describe it. But who you are in the beginning of the game doesn't really amount for who you end up becoming towards the end of the game. So it's more of it's a hero's journey, per se. Now, Assassin's Creed Rogue is a sequel to Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Black Flag is sets up the ship battles and stuff, and then Rogue actually incorporates a lot of it. It only took them a year to build Rogue, but I'm amazed with how great the story of Rogue is. Now, this is actually the first game you play as a Templar, and it's the only game where you play as a Templar, and it actually leads up to Assassin's Creed Unity, which it doesn't... This is actually the cherry on top. It's actually going to start descending downhill. Before I get into Assassin's Creed Unity, if you are wondering why I am not talking about Desmond Miles, that's because there's not a lot of action in the modern day. So in the modern day, Desmond Miles' ancestors are Ezio, Altaïr, Connor, Edward. Not really Shay from Rogue. I'm going to avoid talking about Desmond because it lends into spoilers. But in Assassin's Creed Black Flag, you play as a generic modern-day corporate employee. And also Assassin's Creed Rogue, it's the same thing. In Assassin's Creed Unity, the modern-day characters are nobody really of importance. So the modern day just stops making sense in Assassin's Creed. The only reason I'm mentioning the modern day is because there's this technology called the Animus that allows you to revisit the lives of your ancestors through the Helix DNA. And through the bleeding effect, you essentially gain their skills, which is the entire premise of Assassin's Creed. Now here comes the negatives. I got Assassin's Creed Unity at launch. It takes place during the French Revolution. Now, I was pretty excited for it, but I also learned an important lesson on why not to play games when they launch, because game developers these days, the AAA devs, they don't care about bugs. If a game launches super buggy, they know people will still stand by it. And some people have way more patience than I do for those kind of things. But I was able to finish Assassin's Creed Unity. I didn't even bother playing the DLC because of how bad the game was when I played it. I got Syndicate on my birthday, but I never really finished. I never really gotten past the first part because of how bad my experience was with Unity. So pretty much everything Assassin's Creed related I avoided. And that was also Assassin's Creed Origins. Now, Assassin's Creed Origins I heard good things about, but it was more tipping towards the RPG genre. Assassin's Creed Origins was really a sign that Assassin's Creed needed to move on from its roots. Like, it needed a spiritual successor. Like, Assassin's Creed ended with Unity and Syndicate. They should have just pulled the plug there. But for some odd reason, they still kept on going with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which was no longer Assassin's Creed. Okay, let's not kid ourselves. That game is not an Assassin's Creed game. Not by a long stretch of imagination. Valhalla 2. Valhalla is essentially the microtransactions and just a bunch of, littering the map with useless markers, telling players that it's more important than they actually think it is. And then we got Assassin's Creed Mirage, which is a mirage, because it has nostalgia but no substance behind it. If you want, you can watch Neon Knight's video. I will link it in the description. I thought he gave the best description, and I agreed with pretty much every point that he made. And then you have Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now, the Steam review says it's very positive, so the people playing it must really enjoy it. It did get a lot of controversy because of the Black Samurai, which was not historically accurate at all, and the people in Japan were not really happy about that either. So Ubisoft, I don't know who they were targeting with Yasuke, but is it the end of the world? No, not really. It just feels very forced. And I'm not a fan of forced diversity. But other than that, the game seems to be the saving grace for Ubisoft, because up until this point, they were bankrupt. Or at least on the verge of it. They were bought by a Chinese company called Tencent, courtesy of Zen Studios for mentioning this. Okay, so my final verdict is this. When you stretch out a game series far too long, it doesn't end up being good towards the end. You have to stop at some point. Like, you can't keep milking a series dead and expect it to still be great. Now, the only reason that I can guess that Ubisoft kept making Assassin's Creed games is they knew people are going to buy it. The quality is going to go down, but it will still have the name recognition. Now, that's unfortunate, but if you feel you're being burned out from a long-running franchise like Assassin's Creed, it's totally normal. Like, Assassin's Creed Unity was really a sign for me to move on from Assassin's Creed, because it really wasn't... I knew, deep down, it was gonna get worse. It's not gonna get better. And I was right. My instincts were correct. So, I guess the moral of the story is trust your instincts. That'll do for me. Don't forget to leave a like on this video, share this video with your friends, and subscribe. And leave a comment if you agree with something I said, or something you disagreed with, and you want to spark a discussion or debate. Whatever it is, just keep it civil. I really appreciate you stopping in and watching. And yeah, that's all. See you later.